I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 134. This one's with Esther Sitver, and we kind of talk about her pathway into art. I've been kind of doing a lot of these. I've found a bunch of artists that I know and respect and am friends with, and because I'm always curious the weird circuitous path to art full-time. I've known Esther for a while. It's a good talk. A lot of spicy takes in this episode. And before we get into that, I want to say we just hit the 5th year of doing the podcast. And in those 5 years, it's been downloaded more than 77,000 times, which fries my brain because I just promote it on the Ramblin' Man Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and don't really have a lot of followers on those 3 streams. So if you're not following any of those 3 streams, please give the Facebook page a like, the Instagram a follow, and the Twitter a follow, though you'll literally get one post every 2 weeks. But it's at Ramblin' Man Pod. But just wanted to say I appreciate everybody for sticking through for 5 years. Really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. Even though I'm not weeping right now, it does mean a lot to me. I feel like a dumbass just putting my words out into the world, and I'm overwhelmed and can't believe people actually listen. But I appreciate everybody for listening, and I hope you continue to listen for the next, let's say, more than 5 years. Back to the episode. This one's with Esther. She's a younger artist, super talented, got a great head on her shoulders, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she produces in the future because I like so much what she's doing now. If you want to learn more about Esther, you can follow her on Instagram at esther.sketch, ESTHER, period, SKETCH. And from there, you can click on her link tree and get any links you could need. But I appreciate Esther for being on. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode. What's amazing to me, and this is how we'll begin.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go.
Sure.
What's amazing to me is how many of my friends won't do it because they're nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Or they don't like being recorded, or they need to get drunk beforehand. I was like, you talk to me all the time. That's all this is. All
Yeah.
This is I'm a big idiot, and we'll figure this out. Like,
Yeah, and I went to clown school.
you literally, we'll get there. No spoiler
Yes.
alerts. No spoiler alerts.
Well, they don't know what kind of clown school.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Okay. Are you originally from here?
Yes.
Okay.
I
I'm
am.
going to poke fun at you like yeah. So you...
Yeah, I'm from here. Do you want me to put on an accent?
No. And where you all live now, is that pretty much in that area, the kind of West Knoxville?
Yeah, West Knoxville. Not Farragut, though.
No. Behind Trader Joe's?
Yeah, near
kinda
that.
area?
Mm-hmm.
I think you had mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Kind of in that general area. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are your folks from here?
No.
Okay, where are they originally?
Well, my mom is from Huntsville, Alabama, and my dad is from Phoenix, Arizona. And they met when my mom was living in Nashville and my dad was living in Knoxville, and he convinced her to come over here.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's so they didn't come here for work or anything or did she come here for work?
No. She came here because he didn't want to move because his job was here.
Oh.
And his job was more
backwards.
stable.
Okay.
She was doing a variety of things. She worked for the Red Cross for a time in Nashville, and she also did like Mary Kay sales, which is kind of a scam, but
Hey, they're a proud sponsor of Random Man. No slander. No
Yeah.
Mary Kay slander. So
Okay.
I assume, does she have a pink car?
oh no, she never got there. No, she doesn't. She doesn't do that anymore. She stopped working for the most part.
Okay.
Her choice. She just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
And my dad has always said, if you want to go get a job, I support you. And she doesn't want to, so
Okay.
that's on her.
What does he do for a living?
He's a computer programmer.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the Department of Energy in Oak Ridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So growing up here, the family that lived behind my grandparents, the mom worked out in Oak Ridge like in the 60s and 70s. So height of Cold War, all that stuff. She would carpool. People would come and pick her up. They would take her. They would bring her back home and drop her off. And I never knew what she did out there. She could have been a scientist. She could have been a secretary. I have no idea.
Wow. And I'm sure that there's still positions like that are very secret.
Yeah.
But what my dad has been doing is really not that secret. I mean, he's had to have some security clearances.
Yeah.
But it's just like making sure that the government payment centers move smoothly and all that.
He's an important one.
Helping out with that and making sure everybody backs up their files and that the firewalls are good. Yeah.
I tell you, with the day gig now, I'm learning more about cybersecurity insurance, and it's all terrifying. Like reading and researching like what's going on with cybersecurity across the country, and hearing like whoever the leading writer is for the New York Times was on a podcast with Lex Friedman talking about cybersecurity, and she said, "Oh yeah, there could be a power plant in Nebraska that's run on Windows 98, and if someone opens their Hotmail to check their mail, they could let in something that could absolutely destroy the power grid." I was like, cool, thanks.
Yeah, I've kind of always grown up with hearing all of that stuff about internet safety my whole life. It was just kind of inescapable in my house. Because my dad would talk about stuff that would happen at work and make sure that we knew the whole thing about, like, the toothpaste tube.
I don't know that I know this one.
They say the internet is like squeezing toothpaste out of a tube. Like, once you put something out there, it's hard to put it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I've just kind of always known that growing up. And so I've always been a little hesitant with, like, the amount that I share online because of that. And also, I'm always backing up my files because I've had this guy in my house telling me to do that for forever.
So when I got to college, the professor and advisor, he said, okay, you can use one hand on your mouse, your right hand or left hand on your mouse. Your other house needs to hover above Command S and always be hitting save. So even to this day, I'll sit there with my hand on the ready to hit save. Because back in the day, stuff used to crash so much, and that was pre-autosave. So you didn't have that option. If you did not save, you were screwed.
Yeah.
And it only had to happen once before you were like, there was something I built in, I think, Photoshop where I'd done like 3 hours worth of work back then when it was literally chunking along, and then it did not save. I got to the end, and it was like corrupt file.
Oh, that's the worst.
And I was about ready to start punching the computer. I was so angry.
Was it above like a gigabyte or something?
No, this is when I was in college. So it was probably like 75 meg.
Okay, yeah.
It was much smaller.
I mean, sometimes you still run into those situations. Yeah. Sometimes it's inescapable, but...
I can't tell you how many times when I try to do something, it's like, oh, I can't do that because I'm already doing this, and this in the background, all that processing in the background. I was like, all I want to do is save my file. It's like, well, we can't save this file because we're doing a I was like, oh my God, never mind.
That's one of the reasons why I gave up on After Effects.
Oh,
Because
God.
that program is huge.
Yeah. So I've never messed with After Effects, but I messed with Flash when it was a thing. I tried to learn Flash.
I still don't understand why Flash is not a thing anymore.
I think it's Adobe. I think Adobe bought Macromedia, and they just got rid of it. But on the web, I think it's because it was just so heavy, and JavaScript and a lot of that other stuff came along that made stuff a lot cleaner and easier. I tried to make a short film in Flash, and I worked on it for like 8 straight hours and had like half of a second. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah. That's one of my problems with After Effects is you see the tutorials on YouTube and it makes it seem like not easy but plausible that you could get the hang of it. But then when you actually look at the program, it glitches out every 5 seconds. And and I had just gotten a new computer with more disk space than before, and it's still, like, the computer was, like, huffing and puffing. I was like, come on, you just came from the factory. What are you doing? And then there's 1 million options for effects and all these, like, weird numeric controls. There's just, like, so many options in it that it feels overwhelming. Like, I hope I made the right choice. What if I didn't make the right choice? What if I'm making my life harder?
That's how I feel about like Premiere. Anytime I work in Premiere, I'm like, you're trying to make this way more complicated than it should be. I just want to do something simple, and you're trying to make it too complicated or trying to make it so simple so that anybody could use it. I was like, I just want the middle ground. I just want to be able to edit a video. I don't need all this other crap. I just need to edit a video. Like,
I would just like to enhance my frame-by-frame animation with a little bit of effects so I don't have to frame every single thing.
Right.
But then I'm not really doing animation anymore. That was like 2 years of teaching myself animation, but then it turned out it's not my path, at least right now.
It's a weird thing because I've gotten into that with video editing where one of my buddies hit me up at one point and he's like, how much do you know about video editing? I was like, I've been doing it for a long time. I was like, it's time intensive and you can want to bang your head on a wall. Like, I had a project where I got handed an external hard drive, and it's like, here's all the video footage we shot. We need you to comb through it and make a 2 30-second commercials and 2 15-second commercials out of this. And I was like, okay. And then I got it, and it was 80-something hours worth of footage. It was I paid my mortgage payment for like a year and a half just on that, because I reviewed all 80 hours, all that was billable. It was an insane amount of money.
Well, I'm glad you found a silver lining in it.
Yeah, but it was like 3 days. Maybe it wasn't 80 hours. Maybe it was 40 hours. I can't remember. It was a lot of hours. I just remember I spent 3 days. I would wake up, I would go in, sit on my computer and just watch video and earmark stuff. And then I would eat, and that's all I did all day from like 9 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the morning. Then I would go in and go to bed, and then I would get up, and I did that 3 days in a row. And at like 6 o'clock on the third day, I was like, I haven't showered in 3 days. And oh my God. And I literally just got up, walked outside, threw open my door and went, like, I was like, I can't keep doing this. I have to stop.
I've had deadlines like that before, but ones that did not pay nearly as much as they should have.
Yeah. Oh, that's everything. You'll get there. That's why I keep telling young people. I don't know. We live in a weird... oh, good Lord. We can get into esoteric stuff later, but it's... When I was coming up, because I had a lot of interns over the years at different jobs I had, and I would always tell them, I was like, find something you like and do free work for that thing. Like when I was younger, it was, do you go to church? Do their program. Like do something like that. Do something to where you have autonomy and you can be creative, but you also have guidelines. You have those restrictions and you have a deadline. I was like, do that kind of stuff. And I thought by now that would change. But I'm seeing there's I'm trying to think how I can say this without. There is a guy who does video work in town that he constantly was posting and tagging downtown Knox, at Visit Knoxville, all those, trying to get their attention. And finally, like one of them repurposed his video or did something with it. And I was like, he didn't get paid for that. I was like, you're doing all that stuff and you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get paid. I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, if you're going to do stuff like that, do that for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the way I've been approaching it.
Yeah.
Is I'll make stuff. First of all, I have to make it so that it's enjoyable for me. And then the secondary reason is, maybe prospective clients that I would like to work with in the future.
Yeah.
Or people who might want to network with me and like help me out in some way. Maybe they'll see it. But first of all, I have to enjoy making it. I have to enjoy the thing so that even if none of those other reasons pan out, I didn't waste my time.
Right.
And then usually I can find some way to monetize it. So maybe I'll make it into a print.
Okay.
Or into some stickers. But I know with video, it's a whole other ballgame. I wouldn't know what to do with that. But for two-dimensional art, that's just a still image. I feel like there's a lot of ways to like kill many birds with one stone.
Right.
Even if you aren't being paid up front to do it.
Yeah. So, good Lord, we are going to go all over the place on this one. I'm trying to think which one. Did you start doing the animation stuff because you wanted to do animation, or that you saw that video was getting more traction on social media?
Well, I did it for a few reasons. So, one of them was that I was trying to get a corporate job for like 2 or 3 years. And I applied to so many jobs that I would stare at the screen until my eyes crossed. And I would be sending out like mass emails for follow-ups. I had like a color-coded spreadsheet and everything. And I just could not get any work. And I kept seeing on these LinkedIn postings, we want an illustrator who can also animate. And I was like, okay, well, I can try to learn that.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, maybe if I put a little bit of animation in my portfolio, then they'll see that I can do it for them. But then by the time I had learned it, it seems like they had changed the requirements for the jobs they were asking for. And then they were asking for completely different things that I didn't know how to do.
That's every job posting will always ask for more than what they are willing to pay for. It's always amazing to me that still to this day, it's like, we want a graphic designer who can do PHP and SQL coding and do all this, and we were willing to pay them $30,000 a year.
Yeah, or it'll say something like, this position is free with, this position is unpaid, but you get free lunch, and you should be doing this because you love it. This is a family team.
Cool. Then the family should forego what they're making.
I know. I hit a breaking point with the job applications and with an interview that I don't know if it's bad for me to talk about or not. So I'm not going to get too specific.
Okay.
But I ended up losing like $300 on the interview because I had to travel for it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And then they emailed me like a month later and they were like, hey, you're a really good applicant, but we're not hiring anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to be a freelancer. And
I'm trying to think how to say this without sounding like I am not poking fun or anything. When I went full-time freelance, I got my bartender's license because I was like, I can always pull beer. I don't see you being willing to pull beer or deal with drunk people.
Well,
I think you would put them in their place very quickly.
I would, but...
Okay, that's not me making fun. That's me.
No, you're right.
But I was just like, man, there's so many breweries that don't have alcohol. I'll totally spend an afternoon and $75 or whatever it costs to get my... And I've ended up using it a lot. like
Mhm.
helping out with friends who needed things, or like big brothers, big sisters when they needed somebody who had their license.
Yeah.
Instead of them having to pay somebody, I just volunteered and did it.
Mhm.
So it's stuff like that to where it was really good to have. So
Mhm.
that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, yeah, you can always, we'll have to talk off mic about another opportunity that I think you asked someone about. I'm going to write it down here at the bottom
Okay.
because we will not talk about it on mic.
Okay.
But it was an opportunity you asked someone about, and I would be willing to bet that person did not follow through.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Sometimes I think this probably happens to any creative people where your
Yeah.
family members or like people you distantly know are like, oh my God, I know all these people that could help you. Yeah, I'm going to show your work to them. And then in your head, it's like, yeah, thanks. But I know you're going to forget. Like, even if you mean to, like, I know it's not going to happen because I've seen you saying this for like 5 years and
Yeah.
never gotten an email or anything
Yeah.
about that.
Okay, let's switch. Let's go back. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah,
You have.
I've got both.
Oh, you have both.
Yeah, I'm the middle.
Okay. I think I've heard you mention your sister before, but I don't
Yeah,
remember brother.
I've got a little sister. She's 20.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Little sister. That's hilarious. My little sister's 11 and a half years younger than me. So it's, whenever I say little sister, like, oh, how young is she? It's like, oh, she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
I was like, but she's so much younger than me that it.
Well, it's also funny because my sister's way taller than me for some reason, too. So,
Hey, what does your brother do?
well, he's 8 years older than me. He's an architect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what does your sister do?
She's going to
Although
be,
she's 20, she's.
well, yeah, she's going to be a computer engineer.
Oh, crap. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah. When I worked at PetSafe, my boss, Jill, was big on, she was like, we need more female engineers in here. She's like, I'm tired of it being all a bunch of white dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, because it was all mechanical and electrical engineers. And then I started talking to her, it's like, but how many, like, you're wanting to just find them via HR, like, applications. I was like, you're going to have to go out and start talking at schools or something. It's like, because it's still, the percentages is really low.
Yeah.
It's like, we should be, us as a company should be doing something to help sponsor more, poor people or women to get into engineering. I was like, because
Yeah,
if you're
for
just
sure.
going to sit back and wait on applications, you're going to wait a long time on
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, my sister got this opportunity through her school. She's got a job lined up at BlackRock, the investment firm. Wouldn't that be nice to have a full-time job lined up right out of art school?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, through her school, Georgia Tech.
Oh, God, that's one of the best.
Yeah, she's really good at STEM.
Okay. Do you ever go visit her?
No. But we don't get along very well. We're just very different.
Okay. I was going to say, if you did, I was going to suggest going to the Center for Puppetry Arts.
That does sound very fun.
Half of it is dedicated to Jim Henson, like Muppets and all that stuff.
Wow.
It's Sesame Street. And then the other half is like all this historic puppetry stuff that's really cool.
Yeah, that does sound awesome.
I've been twice this year. Like, I went earlier this year when I was visiting with Stephanie Romer and Tim Glasner. Hey, Stephanie and Tim, because I know they listen and they like it when I say the last names.
Mm-hmm.
And I will probably get a text from Stephanie ripping on me or picking on me, and I'm sorry, and please don't punch me. But she took me that time, and it was awesome. And then I went back to visit my friend Karen, and I went because they had the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the puppets from it. So I thought it was going to be
Wow.
this big special exhibit. It was like
Wait, from the claymation?
yeah,
That's
but
cool.
it was like 4 things. I was
Yeah.
like, crap. Okay. I was like, but it's still really cool to see. They
How big were they? I imagine them being very small.
Santa was probably about that tall. Santa was a lot taller than I thought he would be. But I guess that makes sense. You wouldn't make it, if you need to move them and stuff, you wouldn't make them tiny
Mm-hmm.
to where they would be hard to move.
Yeah, he was another feral giant.
Yes. Oh, I wish the Abominable Snowman, was it Bumble, was in there.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome to see. Okay. Older brother, sister.
Uh-huh.
See, you're the oddball. The art. Were you always into art as a kid?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, since I was 3.
Okay. Were either one of Were your parents into art? Like,
Well, not in any sort of serious way. I mean, my mom does little crafts and things sometimes, and she took some art classes as a kid. And she was in like her high school band.
okay.
And my dad, as a small child, he did watercolors as a 5-year-old, and they were, the quality you would expect from a 5-year-old. And
I'm going to have to cut all this out. Your parents are going to be
well, okay.
poking fun at him. Like, listen, I'm a professional. Y'all got to calm down.
Okay, they're professional at many other things that I am not.
Yes, there you
But I'm just saying, my dad would take these watercolors. He was kind of a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
And he would go door to door in his grandmother's neighborhood and ring the doorbell and sell them to people for a nickel. And it would be like maybe a quarter if it was really good.
That's awesome. How do you not buy that painting from that kid? That's awesome.
I know. No, he did make sales. I don't know how many, but he talks about that. And then there's been other artists in my family, like other generations.
Yeah.
There was one guy who was a potter and an abstract artist, and I think his brother was a sign painter.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And it turns out that my grandmother did a lot of sketches in her private journals, and she just never told any of us that she could draw, but she would draw like, this is the outfit I wore today in 1954, and they were actually very good.
Is she still
No,
with us?
she died 2 years ago.
Okay.
3 years ago now.
Have you got those? Does somebody have those?
Yeah, Dad has them.
Okay. Yeah, that's something you want to pass down.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it because my whole life, and I knew her and we were pretty close, and she supported me with my art career and going to art school and all that. She never told me that she drew for fun sometimes.
So you said 3. How do you know that it was 3? Like, was there something that happened when you were 3 that made art click for you, or?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I think that I'd been scribbling for like as long as I could hold a crayon.
Okay.
And I think I just took to it.
Yeah.
And then my parents noticed. And so then they put me in art classes.
Okay.
And they didn't force me, of course. They asked me if I wanted to. And so they just kind of helped me to take extra art classes beyond what would be offered in public school.
Okay. Were you into comic books or cartoons or anything?
Well, of course I watched cartoons. Like,
Are you kidding? I was watching The Godfather at age 3. What are you talking about?
Well, I did watch some very strange things at age 3 that were not cartoons, like a woolly mammoth documentary on VHS. But I don't really know what to think of that.
Again, I mean no offense to this. That does not shock me. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not embarrassed by it, but it is puzzling. I think I wanted to be a paleontologist for a time.
Okay.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
No.
Maybe I'll do some illustrations along those lines one day, though. But
yeah, you were into cartoon, like.
Well, I always watched Nickelodeon, and I would watch Tom and Jerry.
Oh, okay.
And so I would see the Tom and Jerry reruns from probably the 1940s.
Yeah.
That they would play on Cartoon Network.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would also see SpongeBob and all those shows. And I used to read the funnies in the newspaper before my parents canceled the newspaper.
Your parents are good people for canceling and screw the
Well,
newspaper.
it wasn't even like the New York Times or anything. It was like
the News Sentinel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Local.
I won't go down that road. The reason why I always ask comic books is because when I was a kid, like my dad had served in the military and they gave them comic books to read. So when he came back, he brought his comic books with him. And so that's what I grew up reading first. That's the first things I read.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that influenced getting me into graphic design. Because it's
it
art and type.
Yeah. Well, I know what influenced me for sure was I read so much in elementary school. I read like elementary school level novels and things. I was actually my elementary school's record holder for accelerated reader points because I read so many books. And I don't know if that's why I had to start wearing glasses as a child or if it was just genetics, maybe both. But but I remember reading like the original Wizard of Oz books and seeing the illustrations in those and thinking the illustrations were like the best thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Do you still have those books, or did you?
Well, they were checked out from the library. So
yeah.
no, but I have the illustrations saved to my Pinterest.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
See, that needs to be a goal. You ought to try to get those books. I don't know. That's me. I always want those kind of things to where it's like, man, I wish I could find these.
Well, eventually I probably will get it. And
yeah.
I also have a lot of really great picture books.
Okay.
That some of them from when my mom was a kid, like one of them is Russian fairy tales that just has these elaborate illustrations, like full page. It's like a huge book.
Yeah.
So I grew up reading that.
Do you think it was those? Do you remember the first piece or artist that made you kind of stand up and take notice? Was it something in there or was it something else?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because a lot of stuff I didn't come across it on my own. Because, like I said, I was in private art classes whenever possible or in art camps. I would get scholarships for art camps and things in the summer. Like, not sleepaway, but like daytime at the KMA or something.
Yeah.
And so then they would usually have it themed around, we're going to learn about this one artist over a 1 week period and you're going to make something inspired by them. So I remember learning about Calder very young.
Okay.
And his mobiles.
I don't know that I know Calder.
Alexander Calder.
Okay.
He's a mid-20th century artist.
Let's see if I can. Oh man, I did.
And some of his work is in the MoMA. I remember seeing it when I went to New York as a kid because I'd already learned about it in art class.
Did your parents take you to museums and stuff when you were a kid? Okay.
Yeah, my parents tried to take me and my sister to a lot of cultural events.
Okay.
Basically anything that they could find that was happening around town that was free, they would take us to it because they wanted us to be exposed to just as much culture and history as possible. So I remember even going to some things that were, I mean, not necessarily about visual art, but like there were some Cherokee Native American celebrations in town at some of the historic sites that they would take us to and stuff like that.
What is that place in Norris called? John Rice Irwin's place. Museum of Appalachia.
I've been there.
No comment. No comment.
No.
I have a photo somewhere where we went in middle school and they had an outhouse and we posed around it and one of our buddies went in there and pulled his pants down like he was sitting on it. So there's a photo of like two of us in each side and then Anthony sitting on the toilet inside. And I think I found it and I was like, oh my God. I was like, there's only one other person in this photo that I'm still connected to.
Hey, good thing there wasn't social media then.
Yeah, that probably actually would be viral on social media.
Yeah, and then probably somebody would have got mad at you for it.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my God. Yeah, that's true. Well, so I'll go back to this when you were talking about essentially your digital footprint and what you put out on the internet. I've thought about that a lot because you see like comedians or famous people getting tagged for something they did 10, 12 years ago. And I had to think, I was like, have I ever done anything or said anything? I was like, I've said a lot of rough stuff, but it's usually been targeted at certain, Tim Burchett, certain kind of people that deserve it. So those are not the ones that I have to worry about. I don't think I have anything up that I have to worry about.
Yeah, the only thing that I have is back in like 2015 or something, I was editing some videos just for fun.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would be really funny to take like videos of the Brady Bunch dancing and cut them to like contemporary rap music just as a contrast. And it was really funny and it got almost no traction, of course, and it was kind of buried under all the years of posting since.
Yeah.
But since I recently have started going viral, I guess people are digging through all of my stuff.
Yeah.
And I know one of the songs I used had Kanye West on it, and I'm like, as a Jew, I should really go back and delete that now that I know he's an anti-Semite. Yeah. But then it's like, I don't want to take the time to scroll back and find it. I don't think
I ain't got that kind of time.
I don't think it's that bad, but Kanye is embarrassing.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. Oh, has he said something? I haven't heard anything. I was going to try and find. There's a video. I don't know. Do you know who Tyler Childers is?
I've heard of him.
Okay, so he's a modern country guy, but he's not a Wivick country guy.
Mm-hmm.
Very different. Very different. Like Sturgill Simpson, Tyler Childers, Chris Stapleton to a level are not. They're modern country singers, but they're not on the radio country singers. And Tyler Childers actually came out and did an album called A Long Violent History, and he did a 10-minute video explaining why he was pro Black Lives Matter and all. It was during all that, and then I was like, oh my God. So Tyler, his fan base does not match him. If they ever actually listened to the lyrics, they would never match him.
I heard about this on one of the Appalachian podcasts that I listened to. I can't remember which one.
So, but I saw him open for friends in this tiny venue here years ago, and I'd just gotten a Nikon D7000, so I set it on the table so it would be stable, and I just hit record and recorded one of his songs. Well, it turns out it's a song he's never released, and my video now has 127,000 views on YouTube, and it's from 9 years ago. It was between 0 and 20,000 views up until like 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden it's just flooded. And there's a kickball team that came in and were loud as shit and not listening to any of the musicians. And anytime the musician got louder, they would get louder. So all the comments are like, I want to punch that kickball team. Because I put, sorry for the quality. There was a team, there were people there that made it sound not as great as I would have wished it would have.
Yeah.
But he still follows me on Twitter, which I find fascinating.
That's so neat.
He has God knows how many followers, but he only follows like 300 and something people. And I'm one of them because of that show. So every time I see that he follows me, it's like, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Now, one of my favorite illustrators who helped me to decide like what to do in art school. I mean, just by me looking at her work and thinking, oh, if she's succeeded, then maybe I could do the same.
Okay.
It's Molly Crabapple.
Oh, yeah.
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 And now we're mutuals. We mutually follow each other on Twitter and Instagram. And it's so crazy that somebody that I'd look up to that through all of high school and college is now like kind of reachable.
I'm trying to remember. I am like 2 steps away from her somehow. She like did something that a friend of mine isn't, because I remember when she was just kind of broke through a little bit, she had done something like maybe she had done a backdrop for a band or something that I knew the band.
Yeah.
It was something like that to where I was like, because I remember that name. And I remember when she was just breaking through, I was like, oh yeah, I've got friends that are friends with her. I was like, I can't remember how I'm tangentially connected to her, but
Yeah, she's so cool.
I haven't thought about her in a long time.
Have you read her books?
No.
She's got 2 books out. One of them is about her life. It's called Drawing Blood. And there's also illustrations throughout it. And her life is so interesting. She's done so many things. I feel like she's lived like 50 lifetimes. And I don't even think she's 40. And
you're not far. She's 39.
Yeah.
That's wild. Okay.
And then the second book she co-wrote with a Syrian refugee and activist, and she illustrated it.
I'm trying to look and see if I can figure out how I am connected to her, but I can't find it. I don't know. If I ever find it, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, that's a name I've not heard in a while. Okay.
Yeah, it feels really good to have basically your heroes being like, hey, good job. And it feels like also kind of good, like out of spite for like all the people in college
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay.
Well, some people, some fellow students, some professors in college, they're going to say things that are not very nice. It's just unavoidable.
Right.
And they think they're right, and then it's up to you to prove them that they're wrong.
So I think you'll like this story. So I went to Pellissippi for graphic design because it was a better program. It's still a better program because they teach you the computer. Like UT taught you the aesthetics or the theory of design, whereas Pellissippi taught you the computers and taught you theory of design.
Yeah.
And Pellissippi, still you take art classes to learn graphic design. UT, you no longer have to take art classes in graphic design, which I think is a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But two of my friends both got kicked out of the UT program and had to come to Pellissippi. And one of them told me, he was like, you have to kiss ass in order to make it here. Now, any of my other friends, I'm trying to think, there may be two different people who went to UT's program. They're listening to this. I'm sorry, and you can punch me later. A lot of people are punching me. What is it with you, Esther? People punching me after. But anyway.
Sorry, I'm bringing out your aggressive side.
Yeah. Not even close. But one of the guys, you had like the critique sheet. All it said was see reverse. And he flipped it over, and it was like this 3-sentence long thing saying, we don't think you fit in this school. So what he had done
awful.
is, you did 2 years, you did not touch a computer in your first 2 years. So you did everything by hand. He did a CD design, and he rigged it to where he could tell if they actually opened it up, and they did not open it up. So he went to Pellissippi, had a job when he graduated, was art director at a agency almost by the time he graduated, and has had art director positions almost ever since. And he framed that thing with the reverse, we don't think your style fits ours, and had it sitting on his desk at all those jobs. Whereas a buddy of his who continued on through the UT program is the head of a call, and I'm sorry, that's another one I may be pissing off. He is still the head of a call center. He's not in design.
I thought you were going to say that he was the head of a cult.
Oh, God. No, but that would be fun. If you knew the guy, that would be even funnier. But yeah, so it was like, but my friend, I'm in a text chain that my two friends are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them found that thing. He had put it away. He was like, I got to quit looking at this thing because it's just so negative. And he found it. He was going through some stuff and found it and sent it to us. And the older brother was like, oh, God, I got to find mine. I've got the exact same thing somewhere at my house on a sheet of paper. So it's really weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, that is crazy. Because I'm thinking at my school, sure, some professors, their personal taste might not match up with what the students are putting up. But as long as most of the professors, as long as they would see that you're making an effort and listening to their critiques, then they would at least try to say something constructive. It wouldn't just be like, get out.
Yeah. Yeah, at Pellissippi, we didn't have any, like, because anybody could go because it was a community school. Anybody could go, but it was still very, like, encouraging. Like, if you wanted to go and wanted to learn graphic design, you would be supported and whatever they needed to do. And there were other people. There's one guy, Will. This is still the funniest thing in the world. I was in Art 1 with him, and he was like, dude, I'm in graphic design because I can kind of draw, and I just want the degree so I can go get a job. And he ended up, like, doing stuff like what you put your artwork on where you spray mount it, mat board.
Yeah.
He bought little corners. He was like, that way I can just use the same ones over and over and over again because I don't want to have to keep buying mat board. And his advisor called him out on it. He's like, what are you doing? Everybody else is buying their own. And he was like, yeah, but I don't want to spend that money. But he got out of there. He got like straight C's and got a degree. And he's like a sales rep. And that's exactly what he needs to do. He is perfect for that. But
it all worked out.
Yeah, it was just so funny. Like, they still let him go through because he was still, like, trying. He was doing the work. He just wasn't doing it to the level he could have.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to put it. Anyway, so you're doing. I'm going to go backwards. You're doing some private art classes and stuff. What point in your schooling did you start having actual art class? Middle school, high school?
Well, I just did kind of like the art camps as a little kid that the parents would come to as well, where it was mostly craft based. But then once I was in elementary school, I think I started private art lessons after school, like once a week. I think that started in like 2nd or 3rd grade. And I did that sometime until maybe 5th or 6th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then middle school, was there an art program at your middle school?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't great, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had a bunch of kids that were probably, that was their first entry into art.
Well, I can tell you, I hope it's changed at Bearden Middle, and I do not know who the art teachers are now. I know, one of them, very nice guy. I was never in his class, but that's besides the point. The other one, she was head of the dance team.
Okay.
And that was who I had. And so then a bunch of kids that were on the dance team would take the class, because then they were like, oh, we can just put some paint down and just do nothing.
Yeah.
So I remember middle school art class as me being one of the only students who actually wanted to do the projects and wanted to concentrate on the stuff. And then all these other kids, these are like the popular girls, and they're all like singing Justin Bieber songs all together, and they're using it as like kind of a recess time. And they're like painting their nails, and they're asking me, oh my God, can you draw that for me? Yours looks better than mine. And I was like, well, maybe if you just tried to do it, you would get it.
Yeah.
Maybe if you just stopped like looking at your phone or something, then...
Oh my God. This is hilarious. Okay, so that was middle school.
Yeah.
Could you, well, I guess you were too young. I was like, could you have asked to move over to the other teacher's class? But I guess...
Well, I didn't really have any control over it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was middle school.
Yeah.
High school?
High school, I lived in the AP art room.
Okay.
And I had a whole bunch of really great teachers. So
there was more than one art teacher at Bearden High?
There's a bunch. I would say that their art program, I mean, I know there's different teachers now, but in my experience, I thought it was really good for public school.
Okay. So Fulton only had one art teacher, Miss Waller, who I've talked about a lot on this show, but she had been a professor at UT. Her and her husband had been art professors at UT, and she taught us everything. Screen printing, intaglio, where we actually etched. Like, we learned figure study. We learned everything. And I sucked at all of it.
That's okay. You have to make, 1,000 bad drawings before you make a good one?
I've made more than 1,000 drawings, and I still am not very good at it. I know what I'm good at when it comes. But anyway, Miss Waller liked me because she was like, you just try. You show up and you try. Because it was the same thing. It was Fulton. So it was a bunch of underprivileged kids. And it was a few kids had talent. And she would try to nurture that. And a few kids, she was just like, just sit here and here's what we're going to do. If you can do it, cool. Like, she did not care.
Yeah.
But for the ones she cared about, she really cared.
Yeah.
But it was great, even though it was just one teacher. I think it's still just one teacher up there. That's why I asked about if it was multiple.
Yeah, it's multiple. So I had Flowery Goletovich, who went by Miss G. She ran the art department there for 30 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
And I had her the last year before she retired.
Okay.
I also had Stan Hillard, who has since retired. And I think that Miss G, she lives in Chattanooga. She does something with the state with art education or something like that.
Did they teach you a bunch of different styles and media? Okay.
Yeah, and we also had intensive art history included in the studio courses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We did not. I always joke my Miss Waller's favorite artist was Piet Mondrian. That's how she said it. So after high school, I applied at a screen printing t-shirt shop that if I told you where it was at, it would blow your mind, because it was like on Central up from where Merchants of Beer is. That road, you know how it keeps going, it goes to Nayland Drive?
Yeah.
Well, there used to be businesses in there. And there was a screen printing, a t-shirt shop. And when I walked in and filled out the application, I was a 17-year-old kid. And they're like, name your 3 favorite artists. And I was like, Norman Rockwell, MC Escher, and Piet Mondrian. And the dude was like, okay, we'll let you know. And he went, hold up. How the hell do you know who Piet Mondrian is, kid? He was like, I'm fascinated by this. I was like, well, it's my art teacher's favorite. Okay. Do you want a job here? I was like, Piet Mondrian is nowhere near screen printing, but okay. And I was like, dude, I am not good enough. I started looking at what he needed. I was like, I am not good enough, but I'll send my friends here that are good enough. But
so you didn't end up taking the job?
No. Oh no. If I should eventually get on to my path, the story of from when I graduated high school to when I actually got a job in October of that year is the weirdest path of just like opportunities. It's very weird that I ended up working at Taco Bell. I went through all these graphic design and printing and bindery work and all this stuff to end up at Taco Bell. And the only reason I got a job at Taco Bell is because my best friend's cousin worked there. And
yeah.
I had it, because I got turned down by like Target and Walmart and everywhere. They're like, well, you don't have enough job experience. Because I'd worked at ballparks, like tending ballparks and scorekeeping.
Like at the Smoky Stadium?
No, like recreation ballparks. Like I was getting paid by the city for doing that. And they were like, that doesn't count as work experience. I was like,
how does it not count?
I worked more hours than the kids that were working at Petros in the mall. Like they would work 6 hours a week. I was working 50 hours a week, like for $3 a game. Like, what are you talking about? Like, but yeah, eventually I should do one where I just tell that weird work story about from beginning to end, because that summer was the weirdest thing in the world. Like, it was very odd.
Yeah, it sounds like a great story.
Yeah, not now. This is about you. I had one friend say he wanted to come on here, and here, since he listens to this, I'll make fun of him. Hey, Josh, he said he wanted to eventually come on here and interview me for the podcast. I was like, no one needs, they hear enough about me on every episode. They don't need to hear any more about me. Anyway.
He's going to have to corner you.
That's hilarious. I'll tell the same 8 stories I tell on this damn podcast, and I'll probably.
But you still haven't told that one?
No.
Well, there you go. That's your 9th.
That's my 9th story. Trust me, it would be an entire episode. Like,
well, that could be like,
bonus.
I don't know, solo episode bonus.
Oh my God. Okay, so you're in high school.
Yeah,
good
and then
teachers.
I had Anna Hallowell Boyd for 3 years.
Okay.
And she's great. She does not teach high school anymore, I think. I think she's transitioning to being a college professor.
Were any of them encouraging you to take art at the next level, at like a collegiate level?
All of them were.
Okay. And this is going to be a weird question, but it's because your dad is like a computer person.
Yeah.
Your brother's an architect.
Yes.
Did they need to talk to your parents and say she has aptitude? Well, no, your parents were paying for you to go to art classes. So.
Well, yeah, they were paying for me to go to art classes, but it's weird because my dad would be supportive of me taking these art classes and things, but then he would keep second guessing, like whether I should, like, oh, shouldn't you go do something else with your life, like that's more stable? Like, I want to make sure you don't starve and stuff. And it's, it's really just because it's not his world, and it's the fear of the unknown, even though you definitely can make money in art.
It's parents being parents. They just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, well, my mom always supported me in it, and my dad, he went back from being kind of like hesitant and worried about me to being supportive. And also it'd be funny because even with my paintings and things, sometimes I would show them like a painting idea I had in high school. And then my dad would be like, I don't know, you think people are going to get that? That's kind of weird. And then
It's like you could say that about most art.
yeah. And then I would make it and then it would win an award because it's much easier to win awards when you're in K through 12 than when you're like an adult artist.
You know how to win it as an adult artist? You pay money.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how you
the
win
thing.
awards.
I don't have that money. And you know, it's a much smaller pool because what is it? You're against other high schoolers.
Yeah.
Versus when you get out of college, it's like, oh, you're against everyone that's like 18 until however old that a human can possibly live.
Yeah, but so it's so funny. Like do you know about the Addies, the graphic design awards or advertising awards? So whenever after those would happen, they would do a full page of the winners of the Addies, and even my dad, who is a truck driver, would look at it and go, "Well, I noticed that over half of these are Tombras, and then down the bottom it lists Charles Tombras as the president of the Addies."
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Wonder how they won a bunch of awards. Like he would poke fun of it. He was like, how does everybody not understand? I was like, oh, we all understand it. Yeah. And I worked for a small agency when I was in college and right after, and we did a campaign for Mayfield that we took to do it. And we had, mat board. Back then you had to do mat board, mounted. And we had, 12 pieces. And every piece cost like $75. And we looked over and there was an intern from Tombras and their mat board stack was like 4 foot high. And we figured out that they charged their clients for the award stuff. That they would charge their clients.
Sneaky.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can get... That's not libel. I don't know.
Well, you can cut it out if you're unsure.
Yeah, it's fine.
But,
I don't think anybody from Tombras listens to this. That's fine. And even if they didn't do it, who cares? That's been 25 years.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so you're in high school.
Yeah.
You're getting encouraged.
Yeah. So with the paintings, like when I would be making them and Dad go, that's kind of strange or something like that. Then I would eventually like win an award for it. Yeah. And then he'd be like, oh my God, how do you even think of these things?
There you go.
And so, I mean, he's gradually come around to it and he's pretty supportive now. But still every now and then it's like, oh, are you sure you don't want to be a lawyer? Because you believe in human rights, so maybe you should go fight for them. And I'm like, well, I think it's too soon to throw in the towel on my degree.
So I'm going to say something, and please, here, you can punch me if I'm saying something wrong. My former boss, Jill Weinstein.
I know her.
Do you?
Yeah.
She's the best.
Yeah, there's only 5 Jews in town.
So I was about to say, it sounds like the roles are reversed. It's usually the mom going, don't you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that?
Yeah.
Not a dad.
Yeah, no, my dad was like, oh, don't you want to... you could do so many things. And I'm like, no, this is what I want to do, though.
Architecture wasn't something, because architecture is still relatively artistic. But it's so much math. Oh, my God, it's so much math.
Well, also, my brother, he's my half-brother, so he had his mom's financial support for college as well.
No, but I mean, your dad pushing you into, like, architecture because it's still artistic.
Oh, well, I was always bad at math.
Oh, okay. Well,
so that wasn't going to work. The way I thought about it was, like, all the things that I'm good at were not going to be any more stable than visual art.
Okay.
Because I'm good at English and history. So...
Then it's getting a PhD to teach is what that means.
Right, and that's not what I want to do.
No.
So I was like, well, some people are successful as artists, so why couldn't that be me? If it's got to be someone, why not me?
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. So what made you choose Ringling?
Well, I toured a bunch of colleges.
Oh, yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Remember the spoiler alert? Dear listener, do you remember the spoiler alert earlier? Well, Esther went to...
Ringling College of Art and Design. Yeah, in Sarasota, Florida. Yeah, I went to a whole bunch of portfolio days as a high schooler, and I took them way too seriously because I thought that I could get scholarship money there, but that's not really what it's for at all.
Did they have that here, or did you have to go there for the portfolio?
I had to go to some of the ones in bigger cities
Okay.
for the further away and more prestigious schools to come to them. So I
Okay.
had to go to Nashville and Atlanta.
Okay.
And I think I met with some Ringling representatives at one of them. And then I think I had narrowed down a list of schools to apply to because I was looking at the top illustration programs that were full, like 4-year accredited universities on the East Coast because my parents said that California was too far.
Okay.
And so I applied to a handful of them, and then we went and we toured them.
Okay.
And Ringling and School of Visual Arts in New York City were my top 2 choices.
Yeah.
They both offered me similar amounts of merit scholarship, but Ringling seemed so much more inviting when I toured it and like less scary because it's not a major city.
Yeah.
And also the cost of living is lower.
Yeah. Good Lord.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still expensive. It's more expensive than here, but it's cheaper than New York City.
Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't go to UT because I slipped through the cracks on their scholarship system.
Oh.
And
'cause
I
you're
even,
in-state student.
well, I qualified to be invited to apply to the honors college because you had to submit your regular application. And if you had like the right GPA and all that, then they would send you an invite to apply to honors college. And if you got into that, you could get more scholarship. And I met all the requirements and they never sent me the invite. And I even called them. They were like, oh, oops, you must have slipped through the cracks.
Oh my God.
And they just like never fixed it. So I was like, okay, fine. For like just a tiny bit more, I can go to an actual art school.
Yeah.
Like,
Any shade on UT other than sports, I will gladly
Yeah, I
allow
mean-
on here.
I'm sure that there's good art professors at UT, but you know, it's not like the university's specialty.
I'm trying to think if any of them. I don't think any of them listen, and I think I've met a bunch of them. They
Yeah.
think they are very important.
Well, you know, maybe they are, but
Maybe they are.
I wouldn't know because we work in different fields. So they don't have illustration or like commercial 2D art if you don't count graphic design at UT, and that's really what I wanted to do.
I'm looking up lyrics. Crap.
So I don't know, maybe if you're like a fine artist or you want to be an architect or something, then maybe it's good.
There's a Lyle Lovett song called In My Own Mind, and it's I live in my own mind, ain't nothing but a good time. I'm sure all of them feel that way. No,
Yes.
hell no. The UT, here's my UT slander. Engineering was always their big thing, and then they found out they could print money by giving people MBAs. So the MBA program used to be fully immersive 2 years, and now they've got it down to like, if you're willing to pay, you can do it part-time in like 9 months because they charge like $80,000 a whack to get your MBA, and there's a lot of corporations and companies that pay for their employees to get their MBA, and it doesn't add any value. They don't know anything more when they leave that. So that's how all those new buildings are getting built, is because they are printing money.
You know what I've heard?
MBA
I'm
money.
sure you've heard about this one building that was built wrong.
Oh, yeah.
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 I knew some people who lived in it for a
Really?
bit and they had to move out.
Of
It was
course
like
they
a
did.
dorm building or something.
Yeah.
And UT put it up way too fast and bricks started falling off of it. And
Yep.
apparently there were problems with mold inside the building as well.
Yep.
And students were getting sick from it. But UT was like, well, maybe you should have slept more. Maybe it's your immune system that's the problem. And then they did have to tear it down.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. So, it's literally sunny days in Florida. So you go to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
How quick did you acclimate? Did you make a bunch of friends down there? Did you explore the city?
Well,
Or did you just live in the
I mean,
studio?
the first year was kind of a nightmare.
Okay. Because
but-
it's Ringling College of Art and Design,
Yes.
right? So it's it's not like you have a football team.
No,
or
that was
something.
one of the reasons why I wanted to go there.
So it was easy. No, just, I make this argument. I've got a friend of mine who's a designer who's awesome. That he hated UT football forever because he went to UT. He's one of the graphic designers, and then he and his daughter's 6, I think, 7. They watched the UT Alabama game and they were in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a baseball person. He is not, and he's barely he's a baseball person, but it's not like he grew up playing and any of that. But he was like, "How could you not get into it?" I was like, "Here's my selling point for a lot of UT athletics now. A lot of the players are the biggest nerds in the world." Like nowadays, it's not like it used to be where they were the brutes who would be dickheads to people. Like the basketball team, I still remember this years ago. They were like, we noticed that none of the UT basketball players are getting arrested. It's like, because they're all nerds. They're home playing board games.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're into. Our quarterback who now plays at the Titans, Josh Dobbs, is an aerospace engineer. They're all nerds and good people. Like they're
Man,
not.
well, I hope he doesn't get any head injuries.
Well, that's hits a little close to home because I also boxed.
Literally hits.
Yeah, but I also boxed, so I always just blame stuff on CTE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not against like the Vols. Like, I love it when they win because it's great for just like the town in general.
Yeah.
But I am definitely more of like a baseball person if I had to pick.
Okay.
It makes more sense to me. And it's like, it's the great American pastime, right? So why isn't it a bigger deal?
So have you heard about the Savannah Bananas?
No.
So do you know the Harlem Globetrotters?
Yeah.
Savannah Bananas are the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
Uh-oh.
Like they have a dude on 10-foot-high stilts. Not 10-foot-high. 6-foot-high stilts. I know because he walked past me and I was the only one that could high-five him. They are a lot of fun. Savannah, they're doing more dates this year, and I'm seeing them in Nashville. But they're so much fun.
It sounds like fun. Have you heard the Bananas podcast?
I do. Kurt Braunholer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's great.
It sounds like something that they would be like connected with.
I'm surprised they haven't had the dude who owns the Bananas on. Like, it seems like a marriage.
Do you think that there's any way that they don't know about each other? They've got to know about each other.
I guarantee everything is so niched out to where you know what you know and you don't know a lot of things outside of that for a lot of people. Because I'm not making fun of young people when I say this. I'm just saying I'm just saying the difference in ages. When I was young, we had record players and tapes.
Mm-hmm.
So any music you learned
and CDs.
Not when I was a kid. CDs didn't come out until I was in middle school.
Well, it depends on when you count as young. I mean, middle school's young.
Okay. When I was how about this? When I was a baby. I was a baby. So the only music you heard was stuff on the radio, and then MTV came out, and then from your parents. Mm-hmm. But usually you had the cool older sibling, uncle, whatever that was into music that would hip you to, like, here's this band from the 60s, this garage rock band that nobody else is going to know, but I'm going to let you know. I was like, and the difference is that's how you would learn stuff. Yeah. Whereas now, with young people, you have everything at your fingertips, and it's almost, what is it called? There's a term for it. Something of choice. To where you, what's it called when you freeze up? It's where you become.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the exact phrasing.
Something of choice. To where it's like you want to watch something on Netflix, you end up scrolling around for longer than a TV show that's on Netflix because you just can't. You freeze. You can't decide because everything is
right, which is also like my problems with Adobe After Effects as a beginner, at least.
So, I feel that way about a lot of things now, where you could. Or younger people could even silo down to like, I'm only into this one thing because that's what I listen to and that's what the algorithm feeds me. So I could not know who Fleetwood Mac is. Yeah. Like when Fleetwood Mac blew up on TikTok, you had all these young people going, oh, I just discovered this band. And then you had old people making fun of them. And I was like, don't make fun of them. Let them enjoy it. Let their minds really be blown. When you go back and listen to early Fleetwood Mac and realize it's a blues band. It's not anything like what it ended up being.
Yeah, well, it's also like people were trying to gatekeep Kate Bush. They were calling it Kate keeping. And
But
I did not make.
I'm going to go back and post and
Okay,
add.
I did not make that up. That I saw that
I
online,
know.
but I couldn't understand it because I thought it was great. I mean, I watched season 1 of Stranger Things, but I don't know, wasn't really my thing. But I'm like, who cares the way that Kate Bush gets back on the radio? I'm happy for her. She deserves it, and I'm happy more people are recognizing her.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to something last night thinking about you coming over here. I was like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorite albums. I was like, I need to send you down this rabbit hole. And then I'd forgot about the last song on the album. It's very problematic. It says the FAG. And the song is called I Want to Be Your... And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'd only pulled the songs I liked.
Wait, it's not Iggy Pop, is it?
No. Right there, Broken Social Scene.
Okay.
So they started this movement in Canada that like Metric, Feist, all these great bands came out of their scene.
Yeah, I listened to some of those.
So I think it's Arts and Crafts Records, to where if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, Stars is another one. That's a band from, but it's all this tremendous like indie early aughts indie rock. But Feist she's got an album called The Reminder. I always pronounce it wrong. When I finally got it on vinyl, I was excited because it was a white whale of a vinyl to get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm looking for, I know in a record shop I could maybe come across this, but in a thrift store it'd be extra special to find it. But I'm looking for Suzi Quatro records.
Okay.
And she is very hard to find, at least compared to country music. I mean, it's, of course, where we live.
Yeah. Or classic rock. You're going to end up with a lot of classic rock. Although I will say the one classic rock band that you can never find the vinyl, AC/DC. Because everybody wants it. So everybody just buys it.
Yeah.
So anytime you go, it's always empty.
Well, also I noticed at McKay's they didn't have any Blondie.
It's because people bought it.
Yeah.
It's because people bought it. People know about it and they bought it. It's when you find the weird Suzi Quatro. I'm surprised.
Yeah, well, she was never as big in the US as she was in the UK. Just like the rest of the glam rock movement. Which is a shame because I've always really liked glam rock.
Yeah, there's another band that you hardly ever see is Queen. You'll find
yes,
one or
I
two
know.
albums and that's it.
Even at Lost and Found Records, they only had like some greatest hits compilations. And I'm looking to get A Night at the Opera on vinyl to replace the copy that my dad used to have.
So I'm kind of rebuying some older albums I have because I listen to stuff now. I want to actually hear good copies. So like Pink Floyd, I've got 2 or 3 Pink Floyd albums, but they're so worn out and beat up. I was like, I want to actually listen to this. Mm-hmm. So I'm about to buy a new version of Dark Side because it's like every version of Dark Side I find has been worn the hell out.
Yeah.
Scratched the all crap.
Too Loved.
Yeah, Too Loved.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
Do you have Tommy by The Who?
Yes.
It's a good one.
Quadrophenia. I've got a bunch of Who albums.
Do you have Who's Next?
Yes.
That's a good one.
Oh, I've got tons of Who. I'm telling you. Shoot, you just said one. You're looking for Night at the Opera, but there was something else.
Well, it's hard to find glam rock in general. Like The Sweet, who did Ballroom Blitz.
Yeah.
It's hard to find any
Some
of
of
their
it's
stuff.
niched out and wasn't printed. There weren't enough copies printed. So those
I
who
think,
have it.
Yeah, I don't think it ever got as many sales or radio play in the U.S. as it did in other parts of the world. So it's harder to find secondhand here.
One that's kind of around that era that you might like, Thin Lizzy.
Oh, yeah, I know them.
Thin Lizzy is really good. Cowboy Song. There's a song they got called Cowboy Song. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying about country, though, the funniest thing is how often that's what my dad brings me from these thrift stores.
Oh, wait, I have something to tell you about country.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do love some country music, but so we got the Wichita Lineman single.
Yeah.
And do you know what the B-side is?
No.
It's like the most depressing funeral dirge you've ever heard in your life. It's Glenn Campbell just speaking. He's not even singing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's speaking about like, you're young now, but soon you will be old and you will die. And that's like that's literally a summary of the song, the B side of Wichita Lineman. So we just play the A side and then we put it up.
I'm going to look and see if I can find what that B-side was. Fate of Man.
Oh God, it's depressing.
I've got to look it up.
It's
I'll
more
look it up.
depressing than anything Morrissey has ever done.
Oh, that. I got it. I knew I'd come back. See, CTE isn't totally taking effect.
Mm-hmm.
You asked if that was Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
I don't remember Iggy Pop having.
Well, Iggy Pop. Well, you said I want to be your, and I thought you were going to say dog at the end.
Dog.
So,
Okay. No, it's something completely different.
yeah.
That's a great album, except for, well, the last song is like just a little like 30-second outro, but the last two songs are absolutely abysmal on that album. One of them's called Lover Spit, and it's terrible. And then the other one's called I Want to Be Your FAG.
Yeah.
Like, oh, God.
Isn't it so painful when there's an album that is completely perfect except for one or two songs where you're just like, why did you put this in here?
Yeah.
And you wish that you could like skip over it, but then it's one of the great things about having an LP is just putting it on and not thinking about it and just enjoying it.
That's what I'm trying to do with a lot of those that I have is actually listening through them as I'm washing dishes or doing whatever. And then kind of cataloging that. I will say now, since you have records of your own, are you using Discogs?
No, what is that?
So there's a website called Discogs, and you can log all of your albums on there.
Oh.
Say,
I have been on there before to research other things.
And you can buy albums off of there, but it's the vinyl nerds who are on there, so everything is a lot more expensive than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I would say log your albums.
Yes.
That's been my biggest thing because I haven't logged anything. I'm just like, holy crap, I don't know if I've got this. And their app is super easy because if it's modern to a certain point, they actually have a UPC button where you can scan the UPC and it'll auto log it for you.
Wow. I've got a recommendation for you. You may already have this or have heard it, but there's a record from I think 1976 or 1977 that's Loretta Lynn singing Patsy Cline. It's amazing. I got it at McKay's. It was the only Loretta record they had because it was after she died. And then the last track on it is like Loretta talking about her friendship with Patsy.
Okay, it's called I Remember Patsy.
Mm-hmm. It's really great.
For anybody at home.
If you don't want to be sad, then I would skip the last track.
That's a lot of old country albums.
Yeah. But it's really good.
Oh, man. It's got a brute of a song on there. It's an old Hank Cochran song. The first song, She's Got You.
Yeah.
That's a brutal song.
It is, yeah.
That is a brutal song. Oh, God. Now I can hear it in my head. I was like, oh, God. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're down in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Are you making friends? Are you finding people? They're like,
well, yeah.
Holy crap! I'm used to being the big person on campus, and now this person is like blowing my mind.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was happening, but I should backtrack a little. In high school, I did Governor School for the Arts.
Oh, okay.
At MTSU in Murfreesboro, and so that really that let me know it's so much easier for me to make friends here because I'm with all creative people. Right. I'm not like the weird kid out. And it was nice.
You're all the weird kid.
Yeah. But it's not like I'm the only one, right?
Yeah.
We're all our own flavor of weird.
Right.
And then it was nice being with people who had similar abilities.
Yeah.
And me not feeling like, I don't know, I was the only one. And so I was like, wow, well, if this is what it's going to be like, or a preview of college, this is definitely what I want to go to school for.
You just reminded me. If you could go back in time, I would want you to meet Valerie, Melody, and Chandra. So in my art class, there were 3 young women that were my close friends in there. And they were all the punk chicks.
Yeah.
That we used to go downtown to the Mercury when you did not go downtown.
Right.
in the old press pub, the Mercury, and see punk shows when we were way too young.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the three of them. So I would want you to go back in time and to meet the three of them. Because
Yeah.
I'm still close kind of with Valerie. She's awesome. Like, Melanie had some hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened to Chandra. But Chandra was a small, cherubic looking black woman that was talked real high pitched.
Yeah.
And then Melanie had like shaved the side of her head and had super long hair that she would dye purple and put it into a mohawk.
Into spikes.
Yeah.
That's
and
very
then,
powerful.
Yeah. And then Valerie was just like always had the cool haircut and was just all smoking cigarettes like crazy. But yeah, we would go there. So then it would be me in Fulton football shorts.
Yeah.
And a Fulton football t-shirt going into 6'3", 250 pounds, going into these punk shows with these three girls.
Yeah.
We were all kids. I was a boy,
Yeah.
they were girls.
But that's like what the punk scene's supposed to be all about, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is kind of weirdo in their own way.
Yeah. But when you said that about the weird, I was like, oh man, you would have gotten along a lot with Valerie, Chandra, and
Yeah,
Molly.
I'm sure.
We saw Green Day
Wow.
there on the Kerplunk tour before Dookie.
Yeah.
Like, that's still my biggest, like, a band I saw that broke.
That's your biggest hipster claim.
Yeah. Yeah. Though that's probably not the coolest one, but that is.
Hey, it depends on who you're talking to.
And I found out later, actually, through this podcast, through somebody who listens, Aaron. Hey, AA Ron. Thanks for listening. He said that the woman who ran it was close with the people who ran Lookout Records, which was the label that Green Day and Operation Ivy were signed to,
Mm-hmm.
and they would always bring them through here to play. So there were a lot of punk bands. Oh yeah, there were tons that I saw
That's awesome.
during those days. Dude, God knows, I probably saw someone even not bigger than Green Day, because Green Day is freaking huge. But I probably saw other bands that I just don't remember. But I remember Green Day because I loved the Kerplunk album and the previous one, 2039 Slap Happy Hour, whatever it was called. Because when Time of Your Life came out and everybody gave them crap for going acoustic, if you go back and listen to those first two albums, there's acoustic songs all on there. Like,
yeah.
It's
Well,
great.
that's the thing. I mean, the general public, they just don't do their research
No.
usually.
Everybody heard Dookie and heard them talking about Spanking the Monkey, and they're like, nope, that's who these people are. It's like, they're a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to Florida.
Yes. Go to Florida and...
Is your, like, this may be a stupid question.
Mm-hmm.
Are there majors there?
Yep.
Okay, so what was your major?
Illustration.
It was illustration.
Yeah.
Did they teach you other things like graphic design or anything to...
Somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat?
So we were kind of divided into sections. So similar majors were grouped together for our freshman classes, and then we would break off into our disciplines later on.
Okay.
And so the media majors was game art, computer animation, and illustration.
Okay.
And so we had the same classes together in the first semester and some of the same classes in the second semester. And yeah, so I'm still friends with some of those people to this day. But I also made a lot of enemies that year. I mean, some of it really...
Of course you did.
Well, some of it was really not my fault. I mean,
Okay.
some legitimately bad stuff happened to me.
Oh, okay.
And then people were not cool about it.
Okay.
So I had a really bad roommate situation, and then I ended up moving across campus into the haunted hotel. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, I never met the ghost, sadly. They say that she only visits men because her death was in some way related to men. Not really sure if she was killed or killed herself.
Okay.
Because 1920s forensics. You know, in the 1920s, they were like, what's all this blood? Let's mop it up.
Forensics may be in air quotes.
Yeah, and also Florida, like Florida Man in the 1920s. Can you even imagine? And also there's no written recordings of this ghost being sighted since the 70s at the school. So, like, who knows?
But you're going there. How How defined is your illustration? Like, is it?
What do you mean?
It doesn't drill down into like media or like commercial illustration.
Well, I mean, I can tell you the classes that we had. I don't know
Okay.
if that helps.
Yeah.
Or if that's like getting too into the details.
I just mean, so your major, your degree is just an illustration degree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, we could have minors and stuff if we wanted to.
Okay.
But there were so many minors that I was interested in that I just couldn't decide. I was like paralyzed by all the choices. And
That's the word. Paralyzed.
Yeah.
Paralyzed by choice.
Yeah, but
There it is.
I mean, eventually I did get an art history minor. That was
Okay.
on accident, just
Okay.
because I liked it.
Okay.
Um,
I ended up going to Pellissippi for 3 years just because I could not take the classes I wanted to in 2 years. And so I do not have an official minor, but my minor is in like marketing because I took so many marketing classes. So there's a point where you just end up with something because you've studied it so damn much.
I had gotten ahead in art history by taking some dual enrollment courses at Pellissippi in high school.
Okay.
And like with Tennessee Promise before they like limited it.
Yeah.
And because now I don't think you can take as many courses as I took in high school.
Okay. Did any of the classes you take other than like history affect how you approached illustration or your illustration style?
Well, I think that definitely like any sort of like literary analysis training that I've had throughout AP classes in high school and the few English classes I took in college, I think that helps inform my work too.
Okay. Is there a media you prefer?
To do my work in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I usually do pen and ink with a dip pen and with like a little pot of India ink.
Okay.
And then I'll scan that in and I'll color it in Photoshop.
Okay. And have you tried working, now I'm going to Procreate. What are the digital formats? Procreate.
I don't have Procreate because, well, I don't have an iPad. So I have a MacBook and I have a Wacom tablet that plugs into it. So I know how to use Adobe Illustrator and Adobe InDesign and Photoshop.
Okay. Do you prefer to do like the actual stuff by hand as opposed to the computer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I even had one of my professors that I took several times, and he was my thesis professor, would tell us that he could tell when we were drawing things directly like on the screen on the Wacom tablets with the pens. He could tell like a difference in the quality of our drawings versus when we just took a pencil and drew on like a piece of printer paper.
Okay.
And he was like, stop redoing the same line 50 times and zooming into every pixel in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Just draw it on a piece of paper in 5 minutes and scan it in, and it'll be so much better.
Yeah.
And he was right, at least for me.
Yeah. Something you've gotten into recently, what would you call it? I was going to say shoe painting. That's what I wrote down, but I know you've done it on like purses or...
Well, yeah. Do you want me to talk about how I got into that?
Yeah, how did you get into that?
Well, I literally tripped into it.
Okay.
Because it was when I was learning how to skate.
Yeah.
Because I roller skate.
Yeah.
And so I had my cheapo vinyl skates, and they were all scraped up from falling in the church parking lot. And so I brought them into Jerry's because I was like, well, skates are plastic and acrylic is plastic. So, maybe I thought I was going to get some kind of spray paint or something. Yeah. And they were like, no, there's actually a specific kind of leather paints that you can use. And they showed me, and they have like every color you could ever think of, and they're really cheap.
Okay.
And you can mix them together just the same as acrylics and stuff. So I was like, oh, wow, thanks. And so then I just used them to fix up my skates, and I didn't really think about it for a while. But then I thought one day, like, all of these really cool shoes that I see on Pinterest that I can't afford, that are like vintage, or like in museums or something, or just really expensive, I could just make replicas.
Okay.
Like not exactly replicas, like I'm not going to rip the designer off, but I could make something similar
Yeah.
with some of this paint that Jerry's showed me
Oh.
and with some shoes from Goodwill.
Okay.
And so I got like some $9 shoes and I was like, well, you know, if it doesn't work, it was only $9. And then it went better than expected. And then I've been wearing the shoes around town. And people would ask me, like, where did you get those? Oh, you made them? Like, are you selling them? And so then I was like, oh, well, I'm not, but I guess maybe I should.
Yeah. Or something I've wanted mean to ask, but I'll just go ahead and ask it on mic is, are you taking custom commissions? Like,
yeah, I haven't done any of that kind yet.
Yeah.
But yes, I've been telling people who've been messaging me about that to fill out my commission intake form.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for me to give a price quote just depending on, like, I don't know how much. Well, yes.
This is me.
Yes.
This is me off mic pointing upwards.
I know.
'Cause that's all I have ever done is fuss at you and say, I'm going to need you to charge a little bit more.
Well, I am raising my prices this year.
Good.
But it depends on the surface area of the shoe, like how much surface area do you want painted, like how intricate is the design, like when do you need it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to offer like a flat rate for that, like I can for the ones that I just paint myself.
No, and whenever you do your messaging, all you have to say is, well, you can have anything from a sandal to a cowboy boot. Like,
yes.
I can't just give you a flat rate for...
Exactly.
You can maybe put like a band on there or something. It's like, it's anywhere from 100 to 400. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
Yeah. So, I will be doing that. I have actually, for the first time in my life, I have a commission wait list.
Good.
Not for that, but for like what I would call, I guess, regular commissions for an illustrator.
Okay.
Like I'm going to design a business card for a friend.
Okay.
And I have a few other things that will be happening soon, like small illustration projects. And then I'm supposed to be doing something for the new bar in Market Square, the Alice in Appalachia bar.
Oh, yeah.
I have to figure that out soon. Whatever. Me and Paula West, the owner, we got to figure out what the plan is for that. Okay. But it's pretty exciting.
So, I'm trying to think how to ask this question. Good Lord, again, I hate saying the term, as a younger person, we have younger people at work that I have to ask them. I ended up asking one the other day, I was like, are y'all on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Well, no, I was asking her because we're in insurance, so I was like, you all are all business-minded people or business-degree people. I figured they'd be on LinkedIn. And they're like, not really. I was like, y'all are missing out, man. It's like, you got to trust me, LinkedIn's a lot better than you give it credit for if you work it. You got to work it. You can't just let it exist on its own. But my question was going to be, your shoe painting, what do you call those? Leather painting?
Yeah, it's just leather painting. It's just like painting on a canvas, but it's wearable.
Yeah. So it kind of blew up on TikTok and Instagram?
Yeah.
So, but as a young person, or is it just the freelancer spirit that you have to post to social media to get work begets work? So which do you think it is for you? Because I feel like with a lot of young people, you've had a freaking camera shoved in your face your entire life. So it's like second nature.
Well, I was really uncomfortable about putting myself out there for a while, but then I got this hater email about some of my figure drawings, and I thought it was so funny that I just had to like bite the bullet and like film myself reading it just to make fun of this rando who's telling me like that I should be ashamed to post these figure drawings and stuff, and that the guy was like assuming that like they were drawings of me, and I'm like, they're not drawings of me. They're drawings of like a figure model who I helped pay. But that's besides the point.
I was going to say, did he not notice that they were all different shapes and sizes?
Yeah, it would be very difficult for me to be that many body types.
Because I know one of the people you drew, and I say that's not in a slight to her, you and her are very different
Yes,
sizes.
we are. Yeah,
Because
and
she's almost 6 foot tall.
yeah. Yeah, we're very
Rubenesque in a positive way.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, I mean she's great.
Yeah.
She's a great model and she's so nice.
But then you're tiny
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
tiny.
Yeah.
So it's like, what an idiot to look at that and be like, well, she's just drawing herself. It's like, what?
Okay, and even if I was, like, how rude.
And who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. Anyway.
As if this troll could ever.
Yeah.
And
So
I kind of just was like, well, I got to get over it at some point. And then once I did it, it was not as scary as I thought.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so now has it become kind of second nature or does it feel like work? Does it feel like crap? I haven't posted. I need to post.
it kind of feels like work. I think it's part of my job now, but I just film like while I'm working, so it doesn't really take extra time. Maybe takes like a half hour extra at most to edit for a TikTok.
Okay.
So that's really not bad.
Okay.
And I just edit it on my phone with like a free app.
Anytime I've talked to kids at Fulton or anywhere else, it's like, you all don't realize how useful this thing is. You're walking around with a full-on production company in your pocket.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah.
I think that for artists that are my age in general, I mean, so many of the artists that I know that are my age, no slight to them, but they do not post as often as I do. And like, I understand it's draining and scary and annoying to have to constantly be like feeding the algorithm, especially when the algorithm keeps changing and these like horribly corrupt Silicon Valley people like own all the companies.
I don't know what you're talking about. Elon seems like a very
a savior.
balanced human being.
Oh yeah, totally
What
sane.
An idiot.
Yeah, so I've definitely had to push myself.
Okay.
But it's kind of like just starting a new habit, you know?
Okay.
Like once you get past like getting used to the habit, like
yeah, what is it? After such amount of time, it's no longer habit, it's routine.
Mhm.
Somebody told me that once.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like flossing your teeth.
I don't do that, so
Well,
I've never gotten into that habit. I've tried, but
well, I mean, if you do, it's going to seem like, why am I doing this at first? But then after a while, it'll be like, wait, something's not quite right.
I've never gotten over that hump.
Yeah. If you do, you'll get to a point where it's like, wait, something's not quite right. I can't go to bed yet.
I've inherited bad teeth and bad gums, so anytime I try it just hurts.
Yeah.
Or it bleeds, and I'm just like, I don't like this.
Well, I had that too. But then I was sick of the dentist shaming me.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like not going to give them that anymore.
Are you doing email blasts?
No, I was watching a whole bunch of videos today on how to do that.
I'm wagging my finger.
I'm going to get into it in the new year.
Okay. Good.
I'm just trying to learn how to do it well.
So now I'm at like year 4, year 5 when I heard this. It was after Instagram stopped doing it in time and started doing the algorithm, which was, I think, like 4 years ago, where there was a marketing person I heard on a podcast, and they said, email is coming back because people are getting tired of the algorithm screwing everything up.
Mm-hmm.
They got fed up with it. Facebook now that's happening to Instagram. They're done with it. Email's making a major comeback.
Yeah.
Like a major comeback. And it's not about making a sale every time you send an email. It's 6 months down the line when the person's like, wait, I need to contact this person because I get their email every 2 weeks, every week, every month.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the back. I call it latent marketing.
Yes.
Because it's just you're just always putting out stuff and it's eventually going to come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to
Okay.
learn how to build emails that like look beautiful and like learn how to do the copy editing.
And I'm going to say the other thing, much like this podcast, don't overthink it and make it too complicated. Like the way I say, for SEO, you need to be blogging and stuff on your website, whatever you can do to repurpose content to throw it in your email, like figure out whatever your highest rated post was from the month before and say, hey, I know you saw this, but did you see, then find another one that you liked and say, but did you see this? Like, simple. That'll take you 5 minutes to figure out.
Yeah.
Like, it's stuff like that. Just think about repurposing. Don't think you have to write a new book every email. Keep the emails short and sweet. Anyway.
Yeah. I was looking at a bunch of resources about inspiration for subject lines and things like that, because it feels very forced, at least the first few times trying to do it. I feel like I'll get the hang of it after a little while.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird. Like I did a whole talk on email and how all the stuff about putting an emoji in the subject, all these tips and tricks you have to do. I'm like, this is all so stupid.
Yeah, I don't want to be emailing the way the Democrats email. And I say this as a Democrat voter.
One thing I will, although this is a little self-serving, if you're not following social media knocks, start coming to those. Because I do it once a month, and once will be, what are you working on? And it's just open forum. But then I will research a topic and go ham on it. And so the one I did on email was actually, I did a lot of work and research on. So if you can spare time, it's once a month on a Wednesday morning. It's usually the last Wednesday of the month.
How early in the morning?
It's 9 to 10:30.
Okay.
Hey, if I can get up and do it, I'm not a morning person. Trust me, you can just sit there and listen. You don't have to. I did have somebody reach out and say, you need to turn this into a podcast. I was like, you need to just come. I'm only going to do so much work for you. You can find it somewhere else. But that is one thing. I was like, I do a lot of work for a lot of valuable information. So, and it's free. So,
it sounds good.
And a cup of coffee if you want to buy a cup of coffee.
Well, I will in the morning for sure.
Yeah. So, what would you like to see more of in art and creativity?
Well, I know we've talked about this privately, but I'm getting sick of how homogenized a lot of the styles are.
Yeah.
In the art world. Yeah. In the commercial art world. I'm not talking about like abstract or fine art, because that's something else entirely that I don't quite understand, and I won't pretend to understand it.
Do you have any interest in doing like fine art or?
Well, I mean, I do paintings sometimes, and I can do my own framing. I can put them up, but still my paintings are like a lot more straightforward. Like if you see one of them like hung up next to a fine artist in the Emporium, mine will be, if it's like a barn, it'll be named like Barn. And then it'll be hung up next to some fine artist work, and then they'll be like, this is symbolic of this dream I had once.
I don't have any art in here to point to and be like, oh, you mean like that? Yeah. Everything in here is straightforward except for these two photographs.
Yeah, so I like doing observational paintings.
Okay.
But I think that illustration gives me just like a very straightforward approach.
Okay. But you would like to see less homogenization. I would put it less following, where they see something that works and they just rip it off.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know of so many people who fall victim to that.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, there's so many different inspiration sources to pull from.
Yeah.
Like, why would you keep doing the same, like, corporate art style?
Yeah.
Like, what reason would one company have to hire you over somebody else if your style looks the same as, like, 10,000 other people's?
Because you charge less. Or the art director. That would be the things.
Yeah, I suppose, but that's sad.
Do you know who Draplin is? Aaron James Draplin? The amount of people who have made a career off of copying Draplin is hilarious. Considering his work, which he totally admits is just a retro style that's come before him.
Yeah, I mean, he came to my school right before the pandemic
Okay.
hit, and he gave a talk.
So he is actually a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So, have I already mentioned this?
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Not in this conversation, but in previous conversations we've had.
He's hilarious.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's a great public speaker too.
I cuss more than him, but he still cusses a lot. He's the best.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you would like to work with? So tell people before we get into the who, tell them who you have worked with, because this is still mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I worked for Joan Jett and the Blackhearts.
Yeah. So tell the people how that came to be.
Yes. Okay, so I saw that this company called Gritty in Pink, which is about getting more women into the music scene in all different ways, they were running a contest along with Blackheart Records to design the next tour poster for Joan Jett.
Yeah.
And I looked at the terms and I made sure that it wouldn't cost me any money to enter, and that if I lost, I wouldn't be losing my rights to things, because most contests do that.
Yeah.
And the record company, they got back to me and they were like, no, you don't have to create anything for this to enter. And why would we keep any of the rights if you don't win? That wouldn't make any sense. And so then I won.
Yeah.
And so then I got to work with their art director, and so they paid me, and also they're giving me name credit on the poster.
Nice.
And they're going to send me some copies of it. And also, Joan is supposed to sign one of them and send it to me.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I'm going to frame that.
Yeah.
And also, I told them I was going to the concert in Knoxville, the Tennessee Valley Fair. And they were like, oh, did you already buy tickets? I was like, yeah, I bought them like months ago.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, do you want more? And I think I tried to invite you to come to it because I had an extra ticket and I didn't want it to go to waste.
And I can't remember.
I think you were busy.
Or I had a different show that night.
Yeah.
Because I go to shows all the freaking time.
I know, but it was really good. And so I didn't know, but they had put me on their guest list.
That's amazing.
And so I just had to tell the box office my name. And then they were like, oh, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
And they also gave me fair entry, and they bumped up my seats to be like really close to the stage.
Nice.
And yeah, it was awesome. I didn't get to meet the band because of COVID.
Oh,
I respect that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know that like they're all vaccinated, as am I, but, you know, if somehow, like if Joan gets sick or something, then the show's just canceled and no one gets paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's still crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy. It's like she's like one of my heroes. And so the poster's coming out sometime this year.
Nice.
And I can't post it until they release it.
So with that, are there other people you would like to work with?
Yeah, there's so many.
Okay. Deborah Harry's still alive?
Yeah, I would love to work for her. I would also like to work for St. Vincent, Rina Sawayama. Just so many people. I mean, I really like doing like illustration and design for the music industry. I think it's really fun.
Susan Quattro's still alive, right?
Yeah, she is, but
Is she retired?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like she doesn't seem like she's that active in her career right now. That's all I know. She performs occasionally, but I mean, there's a whole lot of like contemporary acts that are relatively new that I would love to work for. I'd love to work for Marina and the Diamonds. I know she just goes by Marina now, but I feel like if you just say that without context, people don't know.
Have you listened to My Brightest Diamond?
No.
Mark that one down. Shara Nova is her name. That I have met her because my buddy George has played with her at Rhythm and Blooms, like to where she knows their daughter. Oh, Naomi, the one I was talking about with the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's Naomi. Like Shara, when they were here, made sure she got to see Naomi. Like
wow.
My Brightest Diamond, she's amazing. One of the times I saw her live, she opened for the National at the Tennessee, and she was 8 months pregnant, and she was dancing and shaking, and my friend Brandy was like, she's going to have that baby on that stage. I was like, oh my God. And have I ever told you about St. Vincent?
Yes.
Okay, thank God. So St. Vincent also joined when the National played Shara, My Bride, or Shara, My Bride of Stamen, and St. Vincent went up on stage and sang harmony for the National during that show.
Wow.
Which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many people that I would love to work with, but I don't really set like strict goals, like strict career goals for myself, because I kind of have a more like one day at a time approach.
So you don't say, do you set any goals?
Well, I have a goal to move out of my parents' house this year.
Although, I know your parents, in this market, maybe give it another year.
Well,
this market is absolutely
I know the market is not good.
Bonkers.
But
I get it. Trust me, I get it.
I'm going to be 25 soon. I feel like it's time.
I'm trying to think. So I was 25 when I bought this house, and I never moved into an apartment because I felt like moving into an apartment was just wasting money. So
yeah, I can see that. I can see the pros and cons.
You just gotta find somebody that you can get a house and 2 or 3 of you live there together.
I know. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like I couldn't have predicted the opportunities that came to me this year.
Yeah.
So I won't even start to imagine that I could predict whatever's going to happen this coming year.
Okay.
I feel like something good is going to happen. I've signed on to be an artist in residence at Berea College.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's other things that might come to pass, but I'm doing a graphic novel pitch. And so we have to see if the publisher wants it or not.
Okay.
And if the publisher wants it, then I get a big book advance, hopefully, and I get to move out.
Yeah.
But if not, then maybe my pitch will be like a zine that I sell.
Okay. So maybe not immediate goals, but do you have something like 10 years from now? Even if it's something like still want to be working for yourself.
Well, yeah, I probably still will be working for myself.
That's the nature of business now.
Yeah. It's just so hard to predict. And also, like in school, the career services people were always like, oh, 5-year plan. You got to have a 5-year plan. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so kind of like because of COVID ruined my life for like a year. I'm like, it's hard and it feels almost futile to predict that far out.
Okay.
I just do the best I can.
Do you like eventually want to teach or anything?
No.
Okay. Because that requires so much more schooling. That's why I asked.
Yeah. I mean, I would do a workshop or something maybe, but at the moment, I don't really want to be a teacher.
See, I would love to teach design at a collegiate level, but I would need 3 more degrees.
Yeah.
Because I have an associate's, and apparently No, I hit 30 years this year. 30 years, well, we're in 2023. I'll hit 31 years this October.
Wow.
That doesn't count. I got to have a bunch of debt and 3 more pieces of paper in order to prove that I can teach kids how to do graphic design, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's crazy.
As a 25-year-old, if you had your PhD right now, you could teach graphic design kids, and I could not. Mm-hmm. Hurts my brain, and that's no offense to you.
No, I know, and I wouldn't even want to do that, and I wouldn't be qualified. But, I mean, with my college, they have a policy where if you graduated through them and you get enough experience, then you can interview with them, and you don't have to get another degree because they're like, we know what we taught you. Yeah,
that's cool.
But I'm still very close with a lot of the professors I had there, and I know of a lot of the issues with working there and at many other top art schools, and the pay is abysmal.
Yeah. And you're always having to fight to keep your program alive, too.
Yeah, and like even at an art school, it's like you're having to fight to like get the ceiling fixed in the illustration building because the
Yeah.
raccoons keep crawling through it, or there's like a leak in the middle of the computer lab. There's water pouring down, and they got to move over the $2,000 Cintiqs.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, like the computer animation department's getting brand new chairs just cause.
Do you think Knoxville is it for you, or do you want to move somewhere else?
Well, I didn't ever expect to be here this long, anyways.
Oh my
To be
God.
honest.
Okay.
I mean, like living in Knoxville, not like life in general. But, but then of course, you know, with COVID, had to come back here. I didn't have anywhere else to live because I was living on campus, and the school
Yeah.
president said, "You got to go." And been here ever since. So, you know, I'm making the best of it. And I can see a lot of really great things in Knoxville and the Southern Appalachian region that I really appreciate now
Yeah.
that I took for granted before, because it's like distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
So there are some parts of it that I really like, and I do have a lot of really great friends and connections here, but I also think one day I would like to live in a bigger city.
Okay.
I'm not really sure which one, but someday.
San Francisco.
Hey, I mean, if they lower the rents.
I think, damn it, this is the problem we live in today. I'll read a headline and be like, oh, I should read that. And then it'll be behind a paywall, or I'll just forget. And I swear to God, I read an article that it's finally starting to, like there are starting to be abandoned places in San Francisco.
I've heard about that.
Because it was so expensive. They're like, oh, nobody can. And a lot of the tech companies have moved to like Austin or other places, because once the pandemic hit, they're like, oh, we don't have to be here. So we're going to go somewhere where taxes are a lot better for us.
Yeah.
So now San Francisco, I've been to 3 or 4 times. Maybe my favorite city in the country other than Knoxville.
I've been there once a really long time ago, but I did like it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Public transportation in San Francisco is
Oh yeah,
the
that's
shit.
another thing. You know, if we had public transportation that worked even a little bit in Knoxville, then I would like it more. I mean, sure, I've got a car. I can drive it around. That's fine. But it would be really nice to have an option.
Yeah.
Or at least to have more sidewalks.
Oh, God, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
I would just like to have roads without potholes.
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap.
Well,
Like,
I would like that too.
it's gotten insane.
Well, also a lot of the sidewalks here, they were like poured in 1950 and they haven't been touched since.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about this neighborhood. I mean like all over town.
Yeah. Which reminds me, I need to look at the weather, because here, this is an off mic thing I should be doing, but I'm going to look at it now. Okay, it's 52. Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty warm considering.
My tires in my car, when the weather changes drastic amounts, the tire pressure goes down. And I've realized when I left work on Friday that my tire pressure, I was like, I need to get, but I have people coming over, so I need to get home. I'll handle that sometime this weekend. Have I handled that sometime this weekend? I have not handled that sometime this weekend. And then I look at them, I was like, oh, they're totally fine. They're probably down like 3 pounds of pressure. But the OCD in me, it's just needling me.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any museum or magazine that you'd like to see your work published?
With magazines, I don't know. I can't think of any like strictly art magazines off the top of my head, but I would really like to be in Rolling Stone.
Okay. That still holds a... Okay.
Well, I think it's also like, you know, there were all those 90s movies that were about the 70s.
Yeah.
And like 1 or 2 of them, that song Cover of the Rolling Stone was in it.
Okay.
So that kind of like leached into my brain.
Okay. I can see... Yeah, you're into music so much. I can see it.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if it still held hold for people anymore.
Well, I know that's one of the problems with like when I graduated, I thought I was going to be an editorial illustrator and pattern designer on the side. Or I was going to be a pattern designer as a day job and do editorial like at night.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get gigs in either, really. And the few editorial gigs I did get were so low paying. And I know a lot of editorial illustrators now on Twitter, and I've seen all of these stats about how the rates really haven't changed since the 80s.
Yeah, you know who Jessica Hish is?
No.
She's a famous type artist that had a moment, and I saw her speak, and she talked about it. And she does a lot of big work for like New York Times or New Yorker
Yeah,
magazine.
I know there's been illustrator boycotts of the New Yorker.
But it's crazy shit of like, we have this article coming out in 3 days. We need an illustration for it. You need to give us 12 thumbnails in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And she explained the whole process. And at the end of it, I think she got paid like $75.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It would seem like...
And then they own all the rights.
Yeah. But it seemed like, so you just worked for 3 days, 12 to 15-hour days, and all your creative capital in your brain, because it's all in a rush where you can't do other work at that time, for $75.
Yeah, and usually the art directors are overworked. And so even if they give you like a month's notice, they may not give you the critique you need in order to move forward until like the week before it's due.
Right. Okay.
So
Rolling Stone.
I mean, there are a lot of publications that I would like to be in. I would like to be in the New Yorker if they ever resolve the amount they pay people.
Yeah. See, this is the struggle we have. There's friends of mine and I that we text about this all the time when it comes to marketing. Because how many people do you know or have you heard of that's like, well, I know how to do social media because I post on social media. It's like, it's not marketing.
Yeah.
It's not marketing in the least. Whereas somebody just got a job at a marketing firm, and I asked my friends, like, do they have any experience? No, their boyfriend, they did posting on their boyfriend's social media for his business. So then they just changed their titles everywhere, and they got a job at an agency. I was like, and that agency will figure out in about 2 or 3 months that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. But by then, they have that agency on their resume. And
well, also in 2 or 3 months, I mean, if you're doing fake it till you make it, there's so much you can learn from the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Okay, here we go. Here we're going to end on a big
Okay.
one. If you could talk to the 14-year-old version of yourself, what would you tell them?
I think I would tell myself to go to therapy.
Wait, are you not going to therapy?
No, I am now.
Okay, good.
But I wasn't then.
Okay.
I would probably tell myself to get on some mental health meds.
Okay.
And then I think that would help straighten out all the other things.
Okay.
Probably, yeah. Get on some mental health meds. Go to the dermatologist.
Okay.
Because one time, my acne was so bad in 8th grade that one of my supposed friends asked me if I'd been shot in the face.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, if I was shot in the face, I wouldn't be here.
God. Okay. I can't end on that. Is there anything you would like to impart upon anybody before we go?
I feel like there are, but it's going to take me a second to think of it.
Okay.
You want to give me any prompts?
What is something that you would, as a younger artist trying to make it, like to tell to older artists who have already made it? Air quotes.
Something that I would want to tell older people that are more successful than me?
Yes.
Like, about myself? Or
about how you feel about commercial art or anything like that. More the business side, not about yourself.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's hard because I haven't really been in that situation that much.
Okay.
Usually it's me trying to help people who are like around my age.
Okay.
But, okay, I guess in general, I feel like the pieces of advice that I end up coming back to for a variety of like situations are like relating like roller skating to doing things that seem scary in your life.
Okay.
Like, so when I'm skating, sometimes I fall down, but then I get back up and I'm still alive and everything's okay. And even if it was scary that I fell down, it's like, well, the world did not end. And so then I can go and be like, I'm going to try something that seems scary for my career, but like a calculated risk.
Okay.
Not like going off and saying some crazy stuff. And then also in skating, it's like, look where you want to go. Like if I don't want to skate into your Christmas tree behind you,
Yeah.
then I need to not look at it, or else I'm going to run right into it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of how it is in the art world, that even if you don't know what your next like 20 steps are, if you know at least where like the general direction is, or like the next step is, you just try to get into that area. Like if you want to make patterns or something, then you just have to start. And it might seem scary because the first ones are going to be difficult and they might look bad, but it'll get better.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.